Joining me now, State Senator, Democrat, District 1. That's the primarily the Newport News area. State Senator John Miller and a frequent guest host of the John Fredericks Show. Senator Miller, good to have you back, sir.
Always good to be with you, John. Hope you're having a good day.
I'm having a good day. I've got you up in this race big. Tell me what's different. In 2011, you were targeted by the Republicans. Mickey Chohan, you guys, they spent a lot of money. You hung on very narrowly, but I've got you up now in 2015, John. I've got you up by double digits plus. What changed?
Well, I think that we've had a long opportunity to tell the voters and demonstrate to the voters that I have been able to deliver a strong bipartisan leadership and pass legislation, meaningful legislation in the areas of education and protecting the environment and other things. And people want someone who's going to get the job done. You know, as I go around and talk to people during this campaign, very rarely do people ask, are you a Democrat or Republican? You know, most people really don't care. What they do care about is, have you made my life better? Have you solved a problem? Have you fixed anything? And that's what I have done for the past 8 years, and people understand that.
Now, some people are fired up about the fact that it looks like the South Side, Hampton Roads, is finally going to get some money. And Governor McAuliffe announcing a plan a week ago to widen I-64 in the peninsula area, some of which you represent. Now, look, anybody that has to drive to Northern Virginia or Richmond or Williamsburg, as soon as 64 narrows down past Newport News, it's a disaster, all right? You get stuck there for hours. Are you excited about that, and were you part of that decision, and how do we make that happen ASAP?
Well, I was on the Hampton Roads Transportation Planning Organization several years ago when the decision was made to prioritize our projects. In the past, the Hampton Roads delegation, prior to me getting there, would go to Richmond and say, we want these 7 projects, and we want them all, and we want them now. And in Northern Virginia, their approach was, their delegation got together, and they picked one project and said, this is what we'd like. And so all the money kept going to Northern Virginia to fund their specific project each year. When I came on the transportation organization, we pushed to prioritize the projects so we could go to the General Assembly and say, this is our number one priority. And the widening of Interstate 64 turned out to be the number one priority in Hampton Roads. And so I was excited to stand by Governor McAuliffe the other day and kick off the project to widen 64 from Newport News and on to Williamsburg and eventually to Richmond, and I think that will be a great help. Nobody is going to come, tourists aren't going to come down to Virginia Beach if they sit for an hour or two on Interstate 95, and then they get to 64, and they sit for a couple more hours, and then they get to the tunnel, and there's another delay. They're going to go somewhere else next time, and so it's important not only for tourism but for business to ensure that we've got enough infrastructure to meet the demands, and this will help.
Well, look, Senator Miller, there's no doubt. I mean, the disaster that's been going on with Interstate 64 for some time is hurting the economy of Southeast Virginia. It's also, you know, the other thing is what I always keep reminding people is I had Admiral Halsey on my show way back in January of 2013. And he's like, look, if you guys don't fix your roads down there, I can no longer recommend that any aircraft carriers be stationed in Norfolk because we can't move our troops. I mean, it's simple. He said it's a simple reality. It isn't personal. It doesn't have anything to do with Jacksonville congressmen lobbying us. We have to be able to move our troops. And so if you can't fix it, we understand we have to go south. That's hundreds of millions of dollars.
And that was an argument that really resonated in Richmond when the Admiral and others made that case that it's now a national security issue. They can't get their sailors from home to the base in a timely fashion. That's when things started to move. And we can't we've already lost some military presence in Hampton Roads, and we can't afford to lose more. And so we need to do whatever it takes to ensure that the military can get their sailors and soldiers in and out quickly and efficiently, and that business can do the same thing, and that the tourism industry can continue to attract people without delay.
Right. I mean, that's a key issue. Tourism, obviously. I want to get to, if I may, the state Senate center as a whole. I believe you're going to hold your seat for the Democrats, for you guys to take over. You need basically to hold serve and pick up one seat. As of today, I have changed right now. This could change again, but right now, I've changed my prediction to Republicans maintaining control of the Senate to the Democrats gaining it back in a 2020 tie. And let me tell you why. And then I want to get your take on the politics of it.
Sure.
Right now, through Terry McAuliffe's Political Action Committee, starting back some time ago, the Democratic Party of Virginia has hired, they have 60, that's 60 full-time staffers working in 6 key Senate districts. That's 60, okay? That's a big number of people working on the ground full-time. They also have a staff in Richmond of 12. That's 72. They're adding, I understand, another 12 people on September by the end of the month. So that's going to give them 60 plus 12 is 72 plus up. That's going to give them 84 full-time people on the ground in 6 Senate districts. Some of them have been there for some time. On the other side of the equation, the Republicans have one field operative. This is the Republican Party of Virginia. They have one versus 60 to 1. I mean, I'm not making this up. And they have a staff of 3. So you've got 84 versus 5. How does this math work?
Well, not well for the Republicans, I can tell you that.
I mean, I don't see how you can get outgunned 85 to 5 or 85 to 6 maybe and be able to hold this seat. There's 2 races that are razor thin. Let's go to 29. This is the Charles Colgan seat. This is a seat where on an average time it's Democrat plus 12. The Republicans have a great candidate up there that's making it close. Hal Parrish, mayor of Manassas, running against Jeremy McPike. But this is Democrat plus 12. McAuliffe's putting a ton of money in there, and they've got all these people on the ground. I mean, how do the Democrats not win that race?
Well, I think your analysis is right on. I think we've got excellent opportunities not only in keeping control of the Colgan seat, but also possible pickups in Virginia Beach and Northern Virginia. So I think it. In the end, I think it really does come down to the ground game and voter contact and that sort of thing, and I think that's where we have the edge.
Well, Wagner's going to win. You're not going to win District 7. I know you have an opposite view on that. You're not going to beat Dick Black, so forget all those. It comes down to 2 races, Senator, in my judgment. 29, where the Republicans are trying to take one over with Hal Parrish, and 10, that being the seat of the retiring Senator Watkins. And that is a toss-up right now between Dan Kecker, the Democrat independent supervisor, and Republican school board member Glenn Sturdivant. So the Republicans have to win that seat to maintain control. But again, the problem is they're being outgunned on the ground, and they're going to get outspent 2 to 1. So I don't see how they're going to. I don't see how they hang on.
Well, my crystal ball has always been very hazy, but I agree with your analysis that when all the smoke clears on November 3rd, the Senate will be 2020,
yeah.
and Lieutenant Governor Northam again will be the decider on tie votes, and we will move forward.
Yeah, I think right now that's my prediction. 2020, and then Saslow takes over. Again, it's just they just have you guys just have too many people on the ground. I mean, that is when you're in an off-year election. It's all about turnout, and you have that I guess quantity of a ground game infrastructure and that advantage over the other side. I mean, I just don't see how that math works. And I call it like I see it. That's what I do. That's why, John, I'm always right. Medicaid expansion. I hate to keep bringing this up, but we know come 2016 it's going to be another battle. You guys can't win. Why don't you just abandon that and come up with something else?
Well, I don't know that we can't win. I would hope that reason would prevail. I heard your previous guest talking about, we have no way to pay for it. Virginians are paying for it today. We're paying $5 million in taxes since January a couple of years ago. Every month, $5 million is being paid to support the expansion of Medicaid. Virginia is losing that money. If this was highway tax money, folks on the other side of the aisle would be jumping up and down saying, we want our money, that's Virginia taxes, and we want it back. But because it is Obamacare money, they don't want to touch it. So we are forfeiting, more than $1 billion every year to help pay for the expansion to allow 400,000 folks to get health insurance. And if those folks were able to go to a primary care physician and not the emergency room where they get the most expensive care there is, everybody's insurance rates would come down. Those are the basic facts of expansion. It's the right thing to do. We've still got a couple of years left of the federal government paying 100% of this. Let's at the very least take advantage of that time and see how it works, where it doesn't cost anything except what we're already paying for it, and try that. Or go to the Marketplace Virginia plan that the Senate passed a year or so ago, and implement that. But it makes sense morally and fiscally to expand Medicaid and give these 400,000 mostly working Virginians the opportunity to have health care and not worry about what happens when their son or daughter breaks their arm or has to go to the emergency room or gets sick or that sort of thing.
All right, Senator, that sounds great, but reality then sets in. You have two examples now in Kentucky and Ohio, both states that went with Medicaid expansion. Whatever estimates they made, it was 5, 6, 7x the number of people that would get on the rolls that they estimated. It's causing just the 10% they have to pay is causing a revenue hardship in those two states. And, it's been my position that the same thing would happen in Virginia. People would move here if they're within 50 miles of the border in other states. And so even before you're picking up the entire tab, you're still, you're getting 100% of it, but soon you're going to have to pick 10% of it up. That money's going to come from somewhere. You're going to have a tax increase, or you're going to have to cut education or cut services someplace, right? It just doesn't fall from heaven.
Well, there have been analyses done on this by folks a lot smarter than I am, and the analysis a couple of years ago showed that Virginia would make a little money on this. That we would have once you factored in the about 30,000 new jobs that it would require to meet the demand of these folks. You're going to need more receptionists in doctors' offices, more nurses, and that sort of thing. It's going to create 30,000 new jobs. There's taxes associated with that. And that when you look at that and how much Virginia would be spending, we would actually be making a little bit money. And that's an analysis from an independent source.
All right. Well, there's a lot of analysis out there, but then there's reality. And if you look at Kentucky and Ohio, Senator Miller, it's going to be tough, really tough for you to get this thing done, because even if you go into 2016 and you have the majority in the Senate and Terry McAuliffe's going to be pushing it for it again, Republicans are going to say, look at Ohio, look at Kentucky, here are the facts. Before we were arguing policy, theory, hypothesis, ideology. Now it's facts. We've got numbers, and they don't pretend well for states doing Medicaid expansion. I'm almost out of time. I want to thank Senator Miller for being with us, and also for his gracefully letting me get in the unabashed last word on Medicaid expansion. Thank you, Senator. Appreciate that.
Thanks, John. Always good to be with you.